Yeah, I was a personal finance nerd. I mean, I still kind of am, but I feel like the content that a lot of creators create are for people who are in debt. And so, like, once you're not in debt, you're just like, well, what do I do now? Now I just have money.
Hello, our lovely listeners and readers. We wanted to let you know we are moving our newsletter over to Substack, and we are very excited to now be offering a paid option on Substack for subscribers in order to get exclusive content. That exclusive content is going to involve both podcast and newsletters, and the newsletter will provide supporting documentation for those topic specific podcasts. Our objective with offering the paid version is in order to provide the listeners, you and the readers, also you, who are interested in a higher level of personal finance, the opportunity to find that within our show. Guest interviews will continue to be free as they have been in the past. And if you're interested in being a guest on the podcast, please let us know. We'd love to have you on. And we really appreciate all of your support in the pod over the last 8 years. So this is our way to offer an upgraded, exclusive option for the podcast. So it'll involve dedicated episodes and also the newsletter where we're going to be doing more exclusive content and deeper dives on various personal finance topics in order to help improve the financial education that we're offering on the show. So if you'd like to check it out, we would love to have you. You can find more details on our website, www.futurerichpodcast.com. Hello, and welcome to Financials Podcast Future Rich. I am your host, Barbara Ginty, and I am here with my guest today, Eileen. Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I'm really excited. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, this will be great. There's like one topic that you wrote in about that I'm very curious about, which we'll get to. But in the meantime, why don't you fill in our listeners about where you're from, how much you make, all that jazz.
Okay. So I currently live in Florida, St. Petersburg, Florida. That actually matters to the topic. That's interesting. And I moved here last year. I actually lived in Pennsylvania for a long time before that and moved back to Florida. I grew up here. So it's been a very interesting transition. I work remotely at a software company, so I was able to, relocate without any job change or anything like that. And I have a partner who also works remotely, so we both work from home together all day.
Oh, amazing. But that lets you live wherever you want, I think, right?
Yeah.
For the most part.
And technically travel, although it's a little bit hard to travel and work, but we can
technically do it.
Yeah.
And then how old are you?
I'm 43. I just had a birthday.
Oh, happy birthday.
Thanks.
Okay, so 43, St. Petersburg, Florida, work remote for a software company. And then the magic question, like how much are you making?
My base is $68,500.
Okay.
I get a bonus. It's a couple $1,000s a year, depending on how the company does.
Perfect.
I get some 401k match in company stock, ESOP stock.
Yep. Employee stock purchase program.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
And that also comes out soon. So this is the exciting part of the year where you get more money.
Great. That's perfect. And then how old is your partner and how much does your partner make?
My partner's 35. And she makes $70K base and has a commission structure. So like up to 110 probably, something like that.
Oh, wow.
But
okay. So
it's
that
all
can vary.
Based. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's variable, some upward potential there.
Yeah.
Depending on how she does. Okay, perfect. And then, so do you want to walk me through, should we start with expenses or do you want to start with like your life change? Like where do you want to start?
Oh my gosh. And everything's changing now too, because we just bought a house. So
yes.
What are our expenses? So our major expenses with our housing, right? So our mortgage is $1,640. We haven't paid it yet. The next one's next month.
You literally just closed, right?
Yeah, we closed last week.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Okay, so $1,640 is your mortgage. Okay, so why don't you tell me about the mortgage? So what is is it 30-year fixed?
30-year, yeah.
Okay.
The interest rates were all wild during this whole house buying process, but we ended up with 6.75, which sounds
nice.
high to me, but also it's better than it has been. So it's like,
it is better than it has
okay?
been. Yeah, 6.75. That's good.
It has been higher. Did a rate buy down. So like we have 2-point discount for the first year.
Okay. And then it also, after 2 years, it's going to go up to
Mm-hmm.
8.75?
No, that's when it goes up to 6.75 actually. So it's
I was going to be like
4.75.
8.75. That's high.
Yeah.
Okay. So the first 2 years.
It's 4.75, then 5.75 next year, and then it'll go up to 6.75.
Oh, okay. So then what did they tell you what your mortgage payment's going to be next year and the following?
Ultimately, oh gosh, I don't remember like the intermediary one. Ultimately, it'll be like a 1970
Okay.
something like that.
1970. Okay, that's good to know.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2 years, it'll be 1970, 24 months. Okay, perfect. And then the down payment.
So the down payment, we ended up getting down payment assistance from the city, which was awesome. So the program, should I go into the whole program at this point?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
curious because so for the listeners, you wrote in that you got down payment assistance, which I've heard. We've had people on the show that have done first time home buying,
Mm-hmm.
and there's some programs for that, but I hadn't heard of down payment assistance, so I'm very curious.
Yeah, so I don't know if this is a Florida thing or a St. Pete thing or what, but we the program is you can get up to 20% down payment assistance,
Wow.
up to like 550,000 for the purchase price.
Okay.
But it's capped at 75,000. There's like rules. There's just so many rules to it. But
Yeah.
so we ended up purchasing a home for 300,000. So we got 60,000 from the city.
Amazing.
Yeah, which is a crazy amount of money, and it's hard to believe. And they also give you 5,000 towards closing. So
Wow.
yeah, so all we had to do was put 1% in. So we put 3,000 into the deal, and then
Now, what are like the terms? Does it have to be primary residence? I presume.
yeah, it has to be a single family primary residence.
Okay.
It's a 10-year forgivable loan, so like there's no payments on it, but after 10 years, it just goes to zero.
So it's forgiven.
Mm-hmm.
Are there tax consequences on the forgiveness? Usually on debt
I
forgiveness, there's
think
tax consequence.
no, I think not, but I can't remember. Now I have to go look because that makes me nervous. But I think there might not be for some reason, but I'd have to go back and look.
Yeah, I would check that. And it wouldn't, if it was
Mm-hmm.
if it's forgivable over 10, that means that, like, we'll just round numbers. So 6,000 a year would be forgiven off of what was
Mm-hmm.
it was 63,000. So like roughly 6,000 a year would be
Right.
forgiven, which wouldn't be a huge tax hit.
Oh yeah, they did it over 10 years. That's
Mm-hmm.
not too bad.
Yeah, that's usually why if it's
Right.
forgiven over 10, the 10th year it's fully forgiven. If it's incremental, then you'd be paying a little bit of tax as you go. It probably wouldn't be too noticeable.
Not
But
too
yeah, I
bad.
would check into that. Usually, not oftentimes when debt is forgiven, it's taxable.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that totally makes sense. I just
Mm-hmm.
totally forgot to look at that. It's a lot of
That's
details
okay.
in the.
Yeah, that would be something interesting. But so basically, it's almost like unless it was like structured as a grant or something, but it's not
Yeah.
something you have to pay back. It wasn't a loan.
Right. Yeah, it's a
They're going to
forgivable
forgive it.
thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, if we
Perfect.
did sell the house, we have to pay it back. So if we leave it within 10 years, we have to.
So you have to keep the house for 10 years.
Yeah.
Otherwise you owe back, and you would owe back the difference, right? So you every
Mm-hmm.
year a portion. So it's probably incrementally forgiven over 10. So if you sold after year 5, you would owe back 30,
30.
right?
Yeah, I
Not
think so.
60. Okay.
Yeah. So it's not
Perfect.
too bad.
That's
It's still nice.
great. How did you find out about it?
I am I'm very interested in real estate and things like that. So
Mm-hmm.
I was curious. I looked into it, found out this was a thing. There's also county level programs
Okay.
and state level programs. There's lots of programs in Florida. I don't know if it's because of the 2008 housing crash,
Yeah, I was
maybe.
kind of wondering if that
Yeah.
was like to help get people back on their feet and help recover
I
the
think
real estate.
that's
Yeah.
my guess. I didn't really research it too long, but that's something I'm guessing. And also, millions of people moved to Florida in the last 5 years
Yeah.
since COVID. So
Millions.
people who, yeah,
A lot from New York, actually.
Yeah. So a lot of people who were like locals have been priced out of the market. So I think this is
Yep.
also like to help people kind of own homes
Affordability.
who are from
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, because you're right. A lot of times the issue is the down payment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like coming up with the 20%
Yeah.
down payment. You can afford the monthly, but
Yeah.
the down payment is always an obstacle.
So yeah, I looked into it and then asked some people who live here, and like I found a lender through them that does this all the time and was really engaged with the city. So she kind of walked us through how to get into
That's
the
greid. Good
whole
job on doing
process.
all the research.
Yeah, it was a lot. I didn't think it would
Yeah.
happen. I'm like kind of surprised actually. Because I looked it all up. I'm like, this seems really cool, like too good to be true. Like I'm not sure if it'll work, but then it all kind of worked out.
That's great.
With all the rules.
Worth the effort.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, however many hours it took, it was worth $60K. It's a whole year's
Yeah, for
salary.
sure.
So
Yeah, year's salary. Yeah, that's perfect. Actually, more than a year's salary because you would have needed to net 60 to have
right.
it. So it would have taken more than a year. Yeah, that's fantastic. And so, yeah, your plan is to stay there for more than 10 years. And then
Yeah,
that's great.
if that makes sense. I mean, either way, we're in the property, so I feel like we're ahead
Hmm.
of where we were before. So
Yeah, totally. Okay, cool. That's awesome. All right, so your biggest expense, which will switch, but then it's locked in at 6.75 for the remainder of the mortgage. You did the rate buy down for the first 24 months. So that's 1640. So that's your biggest expense. Okay, do you want to walk me through the other ones?
yeah, I have no idea what our anything will be because we've
I
only
know
been in the house for like
utilities,
3
yeah.
days. I've been guessing like $500 total.
Did you ask what the other owners were paying?
I didn't, and they were running it as an Airbnb, so they were
Oh,
being a
so
little
it's gonna
weird about the
be,
details about
yeah,
everything. So
that'll be
I'm not
different then.
sure. Um,
Okay.
I was just guessing a couple $100 for for like electric because we have to run the air conditioning all
Yep.
year. Cable, that kind of thing. So I just kind of rounded it to 500. I don't know if that's
What's the
does this seem
square
high.
footage and like what were you paying before? That's not
Our
how
square
I know.
footage is only 850. It's a little baby
Hmm.
house. So it shouldn't be too bad.
Yeah, that's nice
Mhm. Yeah,
because
because
then
we
the
don't have to
utilities
cool a
should be
lot of
reasonable.
space.
Yeah, not cooling excess space.
And the place we're moving out of, we had utilities included, so I don't know how much that
Oh,
was.
okay.
Yeah. So it's going to be a little bit of a shock, I think.
Okay, so we'll use 500 for
Yeah.
utilities. That works. I think 850 square feet sounds great. I mean, the nice thing about having less square footage, it's like less to clean and
Hmm.
less to like upkeep and then less to like pay for utilities.
Yeah, we don't have a ton of room for people to come visit, so
And you don't have to worry about a ton of visitors. Yeah.
yeah.
That's perfect. Okay, cool. So 500, 1640, 500 for utilities, and what else? What
Hmm.
else are the?
Other like major things. We both have paid off cars.
Oh, good.
I have a little bit of credit card debt, but I'm gonna pay it off now that we're actually in the house. So
Okay.
like around $6,000 on a credit card that
Okay.
needs to be taken care of. And what else do I pay a monthly? Well, cell phone, so like $50
Hmm.
for that, and then like food and entertainment. That's pretty much our whole. That's the
That's
most
a big part.
expensive
And what
thing.
about like car insurance?
Oh, insurance. Yeah, that's $60 a month.
For car insurance?
Hmm.
Okay. Food and entertainment. Okay, so food and entertainment's your bigger part of your budget.
Yeah, we have a budget category called "We like to eat and have fun." So
What do we allocate there?
for all like food and fun, $1,000 a month
Okay. But all your other expenses
are pretty
are
low.
really low. Because I'm presuming the mortgage is like taxes and insurance.
Yeah.
And God, Florida, you guys have low taxes.
Well, yeah, income taxes are pretty low. The property taxes are a little bit shocking.
Oh, what are the property taxes?
Like 5,000 of a year. I feel like that's a lot from like moving from
Oh,
Pennsylvania.
yeah, 5,000 is not what I was expecting you to say for a home value of 300 something. I was expecting it
That's
to be like
crazy.
0.5%. Why is it so high? Is it because of the
Um,
recent, like,
I don't
with the
know.
hurricanes and stuff?
I'm not sure. I think it's just high here because of we don't have income tax, so like there's no other taxes to
Maybe
pay for like things.
it's possible. I've heard other Florida taxes being lower, so I wonder if it's just because you're
Hmm,
closer to the water
it could be.
in St. Pete. Like maybe I'm trying to
Yeah.
think who I talked to, and they were like more inland, so maybe.
Hmm. Like stormwater is a line item
Yeah, okay.
on
It's
the
because you're near
tax
the water.
bill.
Because
Yeah.
yeah, because St. Pete's like near the water, right?
Hmm.
Okay, yes, stormwater. Yeah, that's just not on my homeowner. Okay, cool. So
Well, I guess
then,
my dog is also an expense. I always forget about this, but it's
oh yeah, I was gonna say you don't do pets.
yeah. So what is she? I added it up recently just to kind of see. She probably costs like $6,000 a year with her like vet and grooming and
Vets and
food and all that
food.
stuff.
Yeah, okay, that makes yeah. Pets are expensive.
Hmm.
Um, okay, so we'll throw your dog in there. So that would be 500 a month.
Well, maybe not quite that much. She's pretty expensive. Like her grooming costs like $150, and it's
Yeah,
like
and vets
every
are very
8
expensive.
weeks. Yeah, and she has insurance, and she has special foods. Like she's special.
She's special. So maybe we put down 250 a month.
Yeah, that's probably more reasonable.
Okay, so 250 for the pet expenses, and then we'll put 500 for utilities, and then 60 for cell phone, and then 1,000 for fun food. What did you call it? You had a funny name for that category.
We like to eat and have
We
fun.
like to eat and have fun. So that brings us to 1810 without the mortgage, and then plus the mortgage of 1640. That brings us to 3450. And what is your take home? Your monthly take home?
And my monthly take home, like after all of my
Mm-hmm.
HSA and everything like that, it's like 3,600 unless it's a 3 paycheck month, and then it's
Yep. Okay, so you're every
5,400.
two.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so 3,600 roughly a month. And then how do you do? So how are you and your partner splitting the bills? Is it like is
We're
it your
just doing.
dog, or do you do everything down the middle?
We do like house expenses and dog expenses down the
Okay.
middle, and then we have
Okay.
just everything else we do kind of
Perfect.
separately. Yeah.
Okay, so if you're bringing home approximately 3,600 a month, then your share of the mortgage is half of 1640.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then the dog we'll just leave at 250 because it might be 6,000 total,
Yeah, I think it
right?
might be because we do all kinds of stuff with her.
Yeah. So you're at 820 for the mortgage, and then you would be at 250 for utilities, right? Because that would be um, a split
Yeah, half
expense.
of
And then
that. Mm-hmm.
yeah, so 50 for the cell phone. And then the fun category.
That's just for me. That's
Yeah,
my
that's
fun.
for you. That's what I thought. Okay, 1,000 for you, 60 for car insurance, and then we'll say 250 for the pet. For the dog, because then that would be realistic. If I feel like 6,000 for a dog would make sense with like vet, grooming, food, especially special food.
Mm-hmm. Prescriptions, all that stuff.
Yeah, medicines. Okay, so then 820 for mortgage, 250 for we think for utilities. We'll find out. 50,000. So you do have room left over in your budget. Does it feel like you have room left over in your budget?
I think. I mean, there's other little things. Maybe I am not itemizing everything perfectly. This is
Yeah. But even if
an
we
issue to
round it
do.
up, so like
Mm-hmm.
if we say like everything with the new, and this is all new because you've been in the house 3 days, but if it's 2,500 roughly, that's not including like if you had to go to the pharmacy or you need to buy something, right? So even
Mm-hmm.
if we round it up and said, give or take, your monthly spending is about 3,000 a month, you're
Yeah,
bringing in
that sounds better. Mm-hmm.
36, so you have like about $600, left over
Yeah.
a month. Okay. Because then in with your job, you have a 401k match.
Mm-hmm.
And what's that?
Oh, I think it's like a formula. It's like 40% of the first 7% that
I
you put
hate the
in.
formulas.
So what does that equal? I think it kind of comes out to
Wait, what did
3%
you
or
say?
something. I think it's
Yeah,
40% of the first 7%.
Jesus, I don't know why they always do that. I hate this. So 40% of 7% is 2.8.
Yeah, that feels right.
Okay, so you have to do 7% to get 2.8, rather, is
Hmm.
what they want. They want you to
Yeah,
do 7, and then they'll give you 2.8. They could just give you 2.8. They could just give you
right.
3. They make it so complicated. Okay, so then you're in that workplace plan, and then how much do you have saved in there?
I have a couple different accounts.
Okay,
That one has about 16,000 in it.
okay. So your current work plan has 16 with a 2.8% match. It's like everything with the government too. It's like we'll use if people are like, what's the percentage? I'm like, we don't use percentage. We use factor tables because why
Hmm.
would we just do flat rate percentages? That would be so easy. Okay, so 16,000. Perfect. And then you get health insurance through work.
Hmm.
You said you do an HSA, and then
Yes.
are you in the employee stock purchase plan?
I just get the match that way. I don't like buy
Okay.
any extra stocks.
You don't buy anything extra. Okay.
Hmm.
And then you said you have other retirement savings?
Yeah, I have about, well, it's like fluctuating a lot lately, but like 83,000 in another account.
Okay, perfect. Like in a former 401k?
Hmm. Well, it's a rollover one, so it's
Oh, so you have an IRA.
yeah, hanging on. Yes, it is an IRA. That's right.
Perfect. Okay, cool. And then you said you had previously owned a home?
Yes. So I bought my house up in Pennsylvania in 2016,
Okay.
and the value of it was pretty like flat for about 6 years, and then COVID happened and it suddenly like doubled in value.
That's amazing.
So I went from just, having like kind of a zero net worth on that to like, oh, now I have money in here. So it was a hard decision. When we moved, I decided to sell it. So I sold it, and I just have the proceeds like kind of hanging out in a Wealthfront account, in a
Okay.
cash account, not a
Cash account.
not invested, because I'm a little scared to invest it.
Okay.
Because they handed me a check for $100,000, and then I was like, oh, this is how much money I have, and I have a hard time having less than that now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that does make sense, because I feel like you hit that number and you're like, okay, I want to keep it here. And when it's invested, as you pointed out, the investments always fluctuate.
Mm-hmm.
You just,
Yes.
investments generally trend up if you look historically, but that's a very high level view. And if you look closely, like day to day, week to week, month to month, it goes up to down, up and down, up and down. It doesn't just go straight up.
Yeah, and I'm afraid I would be stressed out looking at that, so I haven't invested it.
Okay, so you have 100,000 in a cash account.
Yeah, it's high interest, so I'm getting like
I was gonna say,
$300
are
a
you
month.
getting like 4%?
Yeah, 4%.
Okay, good. At least there's nothing wrong with making sure you have thought through the decision you want to make, and like at least at this stage, you're getting 4%, which is great. It's better than zero. It's better to be comfortable with what you're doing than like rush into something and then be stressed out about it or feel like you made a mistake and then have to like course correct. I think it's better to take your time. Okay, so you have that, and then you have the 83,000 in the IRA, and then 16,000 in your current 401k. And then is that what we have on that side for assets?
I have some HSA money from the past years, like a couple thousand.
Perfect.
Nothing too crazy. And I have now I can't remember if it's a SEP IRA or a 401k, because I have a business as well. So I put away some money.
You do? What's your business?
There. Well, many things, but I'm a YNAB coach, a certified YNAB coach. So I have some. You Need a Budget, the app.
Oh yeah, I was like, I was thinking that's what it was. Okay, cool.
So it's pretty small. Like I have a few clients, and like if I have some money at the end of the year, I put it in that.
And that would be a SEP IRA. That would be for you have a SEP IRA. Okay, perfect. How much do you have in the SEP IRA?
That is a good question. I need to look at that.
Oh, perfect. So You Need a Budget on the side. Great.
SEP IRA, 2,925.
Perfect. Yep. So that offsets whatever you make there. You go there, so it's like you don't reduces your taxable income.
Right.
Perfect.
That's not too much.
No. Wonderful. And then is your only debt the credit card debt?
Yes.
Perfect.
I paid off my student loans. I paid off my car. Yeah. I was a personal finance nerd. I mean, I still kind of am, but I feel like the content that a lot of creators create are for people who are in debt. And so like once you're not in debt, you're just like, well, what do I do now? Now I just have money.
I agree with you that I think a lot of the content out is like how to establish those first, like to figure out how much you owe, right? How much you have in debt, and like what's your plan to pay it off, which comes down to like how do you establish the habits that you need in order to like pay off your debt. And then then you get to a certain point. That's why I really do like the idea of like a financial coach, because like I think you need that to like figure out like how do you budget, like how do you prioritize when you have student loans and credit card debt, right? I think that is a different skill set than like once you get to a certain level, like you said, it's like, well, now you have assets, like it's a little bit of a different skill set to say like, okay, how do we invest those? How do we plan for your retirement? Like once we've eliminated the debt component and like we've established the good habits.
Yeah. And I think the frugality mindset is like helpful in that phase, but like now I can't spend I can spend money on like food and stuff like that, but like it's hard for me to take this big chunk of money and like do something with it, because I'm like to hoard it, like hold on to it.
And you like to see the number, right?
Yeah, like, I like to see the number.
Yeah, I don't blame
it's very comforting.
So I'm gonna ask you a question. That's the reason you haven't paid off the credit card debt, because you're just going to cash flow that instead of using the money.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Because you didn't want it to go down.
Exactly.
Um, okay, well, let's pivot a little and then we'll come back to that. But I'm curious, so at 43, what's the like what do you think you need for retirement? Have you thought about retirement?
Yeah, I think about it, and I get nervous about that because I feel a little
Okay.
behind. I know, I mean, I have like 100,000 in retirement accounts. That's not bad, but I don't
Right.
feel like at 43 that's like quite enough. So that's also like a little stressful. Yeah, I'm not really sure how much I would need.
Hey, Future Rich fam. This is Amy, the editor of the podcast. I just wanted to pop in and let you know that this week's episode is part 1 of 2 parts. So next week we will air part 2 of this episode on Friday at the same time. Thank you so much for listening to this week's podcast. If you'd like to continue to support the podcast, head on over to our Substack. We are at substack.com/@futurerichpodcast. We also have a paid version of the podcast where you will receive exclusive Future Rich content, including episodes that will not air publicly. Thanks for listening.
Time for our disclaimer. The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. All performance references are historical and do not guarantee future results. Make sure that you consult with your own legal, tax, and/or financial advisor before making any decisions.